Alright, so in past few chapters, Deku's character has changed a lot. He went from that old whiny little teenager who always simped on All Might to a vigilante look, who for some reason looks a lot like Batman. But leaving all that aside, Deku's character has become way more darker than we have ever seen before. In fact, if we compare Deku to his own past self, it seems like two different persons. Or in short, we just cannot predict what Deku will do in future. All we know that his ultimate goal is to defeat All for One. But that was true only up until now, because with chapter 317 of My Hero Academia, we finally got some leads on future of Deku's character, and it seems like that his character will get way more darker, and it can be possible that in public eyes he might be seen as more of a villain or a troublemaker rather than a hero, which leads us to the title of the video. And to explain it to all of you, we need to actually understand the chapter 317 of My Hero Academia and break it down into the parts and predict on that. And believe me, this chapter has way much of lore inside it than any of the previous chapters since the time skip. But before that, make sure to subscribe to the channel, as I will be making a follow-up video on this where I will be explaining the role of all class 1A students, especially Uchaka, Bakugo and Todoroki. So yeah, let's get started with this video. Okay, so the number one reason due to which Deku will leave Hero Society is something we are very familiar with, that is heroes burnout. Because Deku has been fighting continuously for past few chapters and he's not taken any rest just for one reason, so that he can reach All for One and defeat him. But that's not the only reason. He is finishing every enemy so quick as he does not want any one of his people around him to be getting hurt by All for One men, as All for One's only target right now is Deku himself, and that was the one of the biggest reason why he left UA Academy. As if defeating multiple enemies at once was not enough, Deku also has to keep his identity safe while protecting the public itself, because he cannot expose his quirk one for all to the public, as Endeavor explained to us in chapter 317 of My Hero Academia, that if the public find out about the true nature of All for One, the chain of all the negativity in our society would be placed on Deku's shoulder. And seeing all of this, it is pretty clear that Deku is not only exhausted mentally but also physically, fighting every enemy he is seeing, fighting every villain who is placed on him by All for One is really exhausting. But the biggest hint we got from chapter 317 was the resignation of Death Arms. And if you guys don't remember, Death Arm is the teacher of class B students. He was a really fun character which I really liked. But his monologue, he said, I struggled and struggled without a moment resting, and yet all I got in return was criticism and doubt. I know that there are people who cheer for me, but one negative comment hit harder than 10 positive ones ever could. That's how I started. I thought that I was different. I was sure that everyone else did so. I just wasn't cut to be a hero. All I am is a man. And it was actually a really sad monologue for anyone to resign at, because he did so much for the public, but public did not even recognize him at the end. They all like given up on him, which also gave us a very big hint that the reason the heroes are a hero is because the public consider them as a hero. The public themselves want hero to protect them, only then the hero can truly be expressed as a hero. Other than, there is literally no difference between a hero and a villain, which we again got to know later in this chapter, where we finally saw Stain telling about Deku and what the public feel about Deku themselves. Continuing with the chapter shifts towards Deku and All Might, where we see that Deku has again defeated a group of villains. But then we see that when All Might says Deku to take a break and eat his lunch, he refuses to All Might, saying that he does not need All Might to be around him and take care of him, because he's already at that point where he can use 100% of All for One and can protect himself. But then we see that All Might saying to himself says that if you keep going like that, you will head towards a gruesome desire one so terrible that it cannot be put into the words, where All Might compares him to himself from his past, where it seems like that All Might himself has gone through similar stage where he has isolated himself from the whole world. All Might again said, I want you to show the world that you are here. You are a kind-hearted, doesn't want to get me involved in your mission as a inheritor of One for All. You will no longer look back at me. He said that he regrets that he did not teach Deku to take break. He only said him to that don't push yourself too hard, and never said that okay, it's time for to take a break. And he said that I need to say that to you, but at that point Deku has already gone. But the biggest hit of this chapter was when we saw Stain and he told the situation Deku is in public eyes. As he says that he has heard that Deku does not make any sound when he appears. He has also heard that he has multiple quirks, and he compares him to Nomu's and All for One's ability, and says that apparently he's there to help, so that is not a bad thing, but he's always covered in blood, scars and mud, and saying that at the end of the chapter that he does not look anything like a hero. And this is how the chapter ends. And if you look at this chapter, it does not seem to be any coincidence that the author wants us to relate Death Arm's retirement to Deku's public image. Because if you see, Deku's child dream was to be like All Might, to protect people like a smile so that they can know that they can rely on Deku as a hero. But right now he's all covered in blood, wounds and scar, where no one see him as a hero but a villain or a troublemaker who they won't don't want to be around because he's just so scary to be protected by. And I think that moving forward there might be a stage where Deku will lose everything, and Deku might actually lose One for All as well, and that will be the phase where he will remember what his ultimate dream was. His dream was to protect people with a smile so that he can tell them that they can rely upon this. And this is where my second part of this video will come, where that Uchaka and all the UA students will come and help Deku, Bakugo, and everyone will tell him that yeah, his dream was not what he became. His dream was to protect people rather than defeating All for One. He has become so distracted by All for One that he just does not think anything except defeating All for One and making peace with it. So that's why I think that the role of Uchaka and all the hero students is so important, because that will what lead Deku to a right direction. And Kanchan himself will be a very important deal himself, but right now we have not seen him for quite a while. But yeah, like I do think that with this chapter I am way too intrigued in Deku's character. And make sure to comment down your thoughts about this chapter, like the video, subscribe the channel, and yeah, please wait for my second part of this video. We will meet pretty soon.